And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 155 of the Sling'N Lead podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm trying to mute my YouTube browser, also known as Kent.
Every time, dude. Jesus Christ. You'd figure after all these years, you'd figured you'd figure it out by now. Good God. Well, either way, ladies and gentlemen, have we got a special show for you tonight? After 5 years of putting up with my bullshit, my jiu-jitsu coach has made it as a guest here. So, in traditional Sling'N Lead fashion, Ray, why don't you take the time, introduce yourself, and answer the million-dollar question of who the hell are you?
All right, yeah. Well, Ray Casias, jiu-jitsu guy, I guess, and that's what most people know me for. I'm okay with that. I like to keep the other portion of my life a little bit more quiet. But just a normal guy, man, that loves the art of fighting, all aspects of it, and have jumped down a huge rabbit hole of the self-defense combatives world over the last 15 years with the special operations unit. So I've had the opportunity to do some really cool stuff over the last 15 years of my life that for the most part, most people don't know unless you're in my inner network. Here in this last year and a half, we've decided to bring our combative system out to the public as I'm starting to dial my my longevity with that unit down. So, I'm starting to enjoy the civilian side of this, but also stepping back a little bit, man. It's a weird area, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing super cool, man. I'm pretty quiet. I think I talked to your wife earlier today, TJ, and was like, I know he's going to ask me to talk about myself. I'm horrible at it. I've been around guys that are like, man, be the quiet man in the shadows, and that's pretty much how I've lived a lot of my last 15 years. Is just burying my head down and training really cool dudes and getting to learn from really cool dudes how to be a better warrior, I guess is the simplest way to put it. So
I like
well
that.
stated, man.
Dive more into it.
I like that.
Well
so
stated.
before we talk about you, we're going to talk about TJ. What he didn't know is that you and I had a conversation, and this is sort of like a parent-teacher conference. So like we're gonna do the report card. How is TJ at school? Does he listen? Is he a good student? Does he take all his notes? Does he do his homework? All that. What do you think?
I will say this.
Oh God, he's actually answering. Hell yeah!
Yeah, I'm going to answer that.
Yes.
No, here's the deal, man. It's like every student that walks into my gym is there for a different reason. And honestly, in the beginning, man, I never really know. We have a pretty large school. I think we're over 600 students at our gym. And so I always tell people this, like, it's not a mean thing, but it kind of maybe is it takes me a while to really let my guard down with the majority of my students. A lot of guys, man, they come in and within 6 months they're out. And so, if you make it past the 6-month mark, I might start remembering your name. TJ, being a former military dude, I think he fit in really well at our gym. We do have a pretty, I would say a heavier military base kind of group of individuals that train at the gym, or at least with that mindset. And I think he does a great job of balancing his family, his career, and his passion. And that's not everybody. I think that falls through. And that's not just because TJ's on the podcast or asked me to be on the podcast. But, I always look at all aspects of dudes' lives, man. Like, if you're in the gym 24/7, but you're a shitty dad or a shitty husband, I can't kick it with you. If you're not in there trying to build others up, I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time with you. I really look for individuals, man, that are trying to be warriors in all aspects of their life. And since day one, TJ's always been like a sponge. He'll ask questions. He doesn't act like he knows everything. He's been to a couple of my courses, man. And I know he's been to a whole bunch of other courses. And, sometimes you get guys that'll go to a course here or there, and they're very dialed in on one system. And I would say there's like more than one way to do something. And, every system is built around a person. It's very few systems that are just built in a general format. And so you just have to be able to pick and choose what you can take from that individual and put into your own toolkit. And I've gotten the opportunity to watch TJ do that. His wife, she helps out at my gym, and, we helped her get past some hurdles. So it's been fun to watch, his wife become a lot more confident with helping out and be more confident with herself. And obviously his kids train. His son Wyatt helps me out with my kids' classes. And I've gotten to watch him grow, man. And, and I think that all stems from the great leadership that TJ puts forward. So, yeah, I guess maybe I should shine him up a little bit. But, yeah, that's it in the whole. I don't really have a lot of or anything negative to say about him. So, there you go.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
It's just nice to have somebody else come on here and sing your praises, bro. Yeah. That's exactly what I would have expected to hear. I was kind of hoping he'd say something about, like, you keep sticking gum under the desks, or, you won't stop tripping the other kids in the hallway or whatever, because that would have been funny. But he went like straight serious, which is also pretty cool. Very, very coachly of you. I like it.
Yeah, so, don't get me wrong. There was a time when I, embarrassed Ray and literally all of the other black belts under Ray, who have also had a hand in coaching me, at the Pan Championships a couple of years ago. We'll tell that story later.
or now, because you just led into it.
When you hear the collective group who is cheering you on at this incredibly large tournament, and you hear, no! Oh, it's a bad day. Yeah. And by the way, just to brief everybody up, right? So commonly when you talk to jiu-jitsu guys, everyone asks about lineage, right? So I'm a purple belt under Ray. Ray is a black belt under Professor Robert Drysdale, who's the owner of Zenith Jiu-Jitsu. Professor Drysdale was standing right next to Ray when this happened, and even joined in the no statement. So that was fun.
Did you have 3 mags in your hand and try to reload from all 3 of them before you realized they were all empty? Is that not what happened? Because that sounds like my moment at freaking Delaware State Championships. It's the same thing.
I gave up a dominant position where I was probably winning the match and fell back for a straight ankle lock that counted as a sweep for the other guy, and a failed straight ankle lock for me.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do shit. It happens.
Yeah.
It's also. Yeah. So I would.
It happens.
It happens.
I'd like to do what I do, and I'd like to try to draw. I'd like to try to draw Ray kind of into the conversation a little early here, because when somebody opens up, and y'all look. So he alluded to some background in law or in military, excuse me, and some unit stuff. We really don't have to talk about that. Unless you're interested. I'm sort of, I don't want to say I'm not, but I have other more pressing questions. So if you want to loop that back in at any point, do so. But I want to talk to you from the perspective of a fellow business owner, and we both own schools. They're just different schools.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about what it's like to run one of these businesses, because a lot of people. There's a million, like, if you drove down the Carlisle Pike here in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, you'd see various hi-ya shit from one end of it to the other, right? There's 10 schools out there. Karate, Aikikembo, Chuck Norris, Texas Rangers. There's a lot of them, right? So my first question to you would be, if my wife or my best friend were trying to pick a jiu-jitsu school, what would be their, first clue that they're in the right place? How does somebody know? How does somebody know they're in the right place?
So, all right. you're asking Ray with a little bit more wisdom. I think if you'd asked me 20 years ago, I would have given you a different answer. So I look at it like this. Not every school's for everyone. Every school has their own dynamic, their own culture. Some are more on the competitive side. Some are more on the kid side. You know, you have those MMA based schools, you have family oriented schools. I think I always tell guys this, like, we do a 30-day trial at my gym. I think I'm probably one of the only gyms that do a 30-day trial, and I call it a two-way interview. I don't always want every student. Yeah, I always don't want every student to be at my gym. You know, you might come in with the wrong attitude, the wrong mindset, and we're not going to catch that in a free class or even a free week. And the same is, said vice versa. If you come into a gym, like, how do you know what the culture is based off of one class? How do you know what the culture is based off of 1 week? So I think these schools that only do a one trial class, you might get them to sign up off of a euphoric high, but I'd be hard pressed to think that you're going to get a lot of guys to stay. For us, that 30-day window, usually in 2 weeks, I know whether you're staying or you're leaving. And so I was like, find a gym that's not going to just try to wrangle you in after one class and to sign that trivial contract. Get 7 days to be able to look at the bare minimum and, look at a couple of things like, what are you in there for? Are you in there because you're trying to test your manhood? If you're at a gym that, caters to a family atmosphere and you're not a family dude, that gym's probably not going to be for you. Vice versa. If you're just a 34-year-old dad that's just wanting to dust off, that athletic mindset, and you run into an MMA gym full of a bunch of 20-year-olds, you're probably, so I always tell guys, like, before you run in, like, figure out really what your goals are. Do a little bit of research. Old Ray would have been like, this gym sucks. But truth be told is maybe that gym doesn't suck for that certain individual. Be willing to test it out a little bit in the beginning. So I think that for me, that's what makes a difference. Is like, not your lineage, not your expertise. That doesn't really matter in the beginning for a new person walking in. And I think you could probably deal with that too. It's like, are you approachable? Do you have an open mindset to be able to teach individuals? Okay, yeah, you're a 10-time world champion. That's cool, but you're an asshole. Yeah, I don't know if I want to be here. Then you got Bob, who's, competed a little bit, but, is a really down to earth dude and, is willing to put time into you. Yeah, man, I can bypass your accolades for that. So hopefully that kind of answers it.
No, it doesn't kind of answer it. That's very, very succinct and a good. I like it. There's no wrong answer, but you certainly know you immediately knew what I meant, and you vibed with me. So I like that. So now flip that. So here comes Johnny walking in off the street. What makes Johnny the kind of person you want to put time into versus the kind of person that you immediately cut bait with and go, nah, never mind?
I would say you really can't catch anything based off of a first interaction with someone coming into a gym. A gym is so, especially like, and again, I'm going to dial this all based off of my background. But it's, you walk into, I don't care how much of an alpha male you think you are. I don't really like the term alpha, but, I don't care how tough you think you are, how good you think you are. Pulling up into a parking lot where there's dudes that train, man, there's a lot of dudes in action that never make it from their car. They'll leave the parking lot. And it's so weird to me because I don't think that way, but I'll get guys like, man, it took everything in my power to walk through your doors that first day. I sat in that parking lot for 15 minutes and literally talked myself out of going in. And finally, I just took a step in. So who knows how many guys pulled up into our parking lot and just never showed up, right? So I usually don't. I say this. Day one, I'm going to get a guy that comes in and there's going to be like probably two different mindsets. And I think both of them are false. I think there's a guy that comes in with the bravado, like, hey, I wrestled in high school. I did combatives in the military. It doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, you know? Like, I think maybe that's just a guy that's like, all right, this is how I'm dealing with this overwhelming feeling of being inadequate or feeling inadequate. So I'm like, all right, you know, like, just have fun, dude. Like, you're a little bit older now. You haven't trained in a while. Like, just smooth yourself in, right? Don't be so quick. And then, you know, you'll have that person that comes in that is just like, we call them like a flopping fish, you know. Every time you try to grab them, they just fall over. They're so overwhelmed that they're not there. So I always tell guys, it's like, I'm going to give you at least 30 days before I make a decision on where you're at. Right. You know, I've just seen so many people walk into our gym and kind of, I call it big dogging, you know, come in and I have this certificate, that certificate. And most of the time they're actually not bad dudes. Right. They're just, you know, it's like, hey, like I'm walking into a room and I thought I was tough and now I'm watching all these dudes fight. I don't know if I am tough. And then, you know, I've got that guy that's a flopping fish. But then he ends up being one of my best jiu-jitsu students in the end. So after 30 days, I start to sit back and kind of figure out where you're at, you know, like, I just don't think you can do anything. Yeah.
Can I submit something to you on this? For me at the gun range, oftentimes the big dogging from them is sort of the defense mechanism they had to put up to get out of the car in the parking lot in the first place.
I totally agree with you.
Does that track? Like yeah, he ain't a bad dude. I'm envisioning you, right? Fuck it. I love you. Steve Dar, where are you? You're in the comments or you're going to hear this someday. I love you, brother. You had like, you're such a like fucking amazing father and husband and like good, soft American human. Not soft like he's a pussy, but like the level of compassion that he can show his wife and kids compared to the way he looks. He looks like he should be, you know, some, you know, fifth grade dude just doing some crazy shit. And he's like not really that guy, but he already looks the part. Mm-hmm. But then whenever social anxiety he has to get him past the gate, so to speak, he like gets out of the truck and he goes like that real quick. And I'm like, yeah, man, them shoulders looking tight. And he'll just like laugh. I'll be like, stop it. I'm like, Steve, calm down, bro. Nobody's going to take a picture for the next 45 minutes. It's okay. You don't have to cry the whole time.
That's awesome.
But like, yeah, that's sometimes it's a defense mechanism. Sometimes it's like this dude's a serial killer and he should be nowhere near any of us. But like, oftentimes it's just a defense mechanism. I see.
What I find though is those individuals, the ones that like, it's a true, like, hey, I'm better than you. I have more knowledge than you. Those guys weed themselves out within the first week. Because they're not. And we know that. Like, you know, and it's like, once you're in with dudes that are actually really good and don't have that type of mentality, and you just don't fit in that room. Like, it's like, you know, you're going to leave. You'll go somewhere else, which is fine. Like, you know, I always say this, man, like, I'm okay with wiping my hands clean of individuals, man. Go be someone else's problem, or more than likely you're just never going to train.
So what point in your career you've been running the school for, you mentioned 20 years. How many exact, like 20 whatever years? Running a school, maybe not the school.
Honestly, longer than that. You know, me and a friend of mine started probably the true first mixed martial arts school in Nashville. It was called the Fighters Guild. You know, this was way back in the late 90s when no one was doing jiu-jitsu, just the weirdos. No one was really doing it for belt ranking. Truth be told, it was him and I that found a spot, and we're like, hey, I can afford this much per month. You can afford this much per month. And we put up a little mason jar, and if dudes wanted to put money in there to help us pay, that's what we did. Then a buddy of mine opened up Nashville MMA. We all went over there. In 2005, I went to Colorado to go back home and help take care of my mom before she passed away. My wife and I opened a gym there in Colorado, came back here and opened this gym in 2009. So I've been at it for a while.
All right.
I'm a lot older than I look, I think.
I was going to say, so now I know the answer to this. I know the answer is not 0. So in that 10-year, how many of them did you overinvest in and try to save from themselves?
Too many.
Yeah. The answer ain't 0, right? So
no, it's too many, man. I think, and you could, as a coach, I always tell people, I'm like, am I your instructor or am I your coach?
Because let's define the difference. I love this. Let's go. What's the difference?
So as an instructor, you pay me for a set amount of classes per day. I come in and I teach a technique. I guide you in it. I make sure that you kind of get it. But that's kind of where our commitment level changes. Like an instructor to me is a person that's there to teach a specific set of things. As a coach, I'm fully invested in your journey, which it's not included in your membership, right? It's you're showing that you want to be a better human being. So I'm going to take time away and put that into you. And I always tell guys this, sometimes the guys that end up hurting you the most are the ones that you gave the most to. But they are not in the same realm of how many people you've helped over the years that have become great human beings. And so every once in a while you'll get burned by somebody. And it hurts for, weeks, 3 weeks. And my wife will always say, like, you always tell me I'm never going to invest in anyone else again. And then a week later you're reinvested. And I'm like, yeah, because for that slight moment, there's a little, I call it a little kick in the dick. So excuse my French, but you invest that time in someone and it's like, when they feel like there's nothing else to learn from you, they become very toxic. And that's not everybody, but yeah, this. I'm sure you've had that in your world. Sometimes you invest in people, man, and it just is what it is. But I don't think it should take away from you wanting to invest again.
God damn, you want to run a gun school with me, bro? Let's go. You are so as I'm in no way surprised, right? We are the same. Well, we're not the same, dude. I'm not nearly as sexy and tattooed and whatever. And I was the only special forces I was in was the very narrow, small buses. But anyway, like other than that, same. I feel exactly the same way. I would have answered almost all those questions the same. And there's no we didn't toss notes, y'all. I didn't text him what to say or shit. This dude and I met 40 minutes ago, plus or minus. That's that's a really, really, really solid, strong answer.
We have never done show notes. We will never do show notes.
Yeah, we will die without advertisers. God damn it! There will
be raw dog in life, man.
Yeah, no. But dude, that's exactly all my best friends in the firearms training business would have answered that question in exactly the same way. That little line of questioning you just went through. 100%. Same. Yeah, some burn you. There's some toxicity. It hurts sometimes. You do it again. The difference between a coach and an instructor is something that we talk about in constant. We being our cadre, we do not want to just fucking PowerPoint somebody to death. I don't know how to use PowerPoint, but you know what I mean? We don't want to just rattle somebody through some curriculum. We want to actually help them figure some shit out. And yeah, that takes a lot of emotional
TJ's been through this with me. Well, TJ's been this with me in class. I tell people all the time, like, you need to make the decision on what I am to you. Am I your instructor? Or am I your coach? Like, you have to make that decision. That's not a me decision. I'm a coach through and through. I just happen to run a business. And so at the end of the day, if you just want to show up and, learn some techniques and roll and disappear, cool. But I think you're missing a lot of it if that's all you're doing. There's, and obviously I'm in the gun world quite a bit too. I think it's like, there's something way more intimate about the combatives world, whether it's jiu-jitsu, whether it's MMA, whether it's boxing, whether it's knife fighting, whether it's gun fighting. I don't know. I don't think a guy that's doing this for a living has the mindset of an instructor. They're a coach. You may call them instructor, but they're invested in their skill set. They're invested in their knowledge, and they're willing to give it to whoever's willing to absorb it. So I just don't look at, like, I think of an instructor as like a college professor, someone that's getting paid just to regurgitate information.
Yeah,
and that's not us.
The hard part that I've observed for most people is not having the emotional maturity to understand that, oh, well, hey, when I first started and I was coming, 3-4 days a week and training really hard and get ready for competition, now I've kind of backed off. Maybe I come in once a week, but, my coaches ain't giving me, I'm not getting the same attention, right? They don't have the emotional maturity to say, oh, wait, I get to, like, I'm the choice. Like, I'm the reason that we went from coach to instructor, or vice versa, right? And there's a lot of people that I see walking around butthurt because they didn't realize that.
Here, I'll give you a fucking mistake I made a while ago. When the business was young and like the finances were such that you felt compelled to drive harder than you should have, right? Like in a lot of circumstances, it was my own emotional immaturity that allowed it to go in a bad direction simply for the sake of profit. And like, I had to choke on that. Like I started this, you're older than you look. I started this younger than I should have. Right. So as a young, immature man, I was trying to run a business and sort of forgot, because also corporate America, also, savvy sales dickhead from a Fortune 500 company. I mean, I was like, all right, let's go. Let's get some KPIs up in this bitch. Let's track some numbers. Let's see what we can do. Let's look at penetration, da. And like, I let the driving the business become more of the decision-making factor than the, like, what's better for them. And the minute that got pointed out to me by like a squared away mentor who called me on my bullshit, and then I took a good like 90 days to consider how right that person was. Here in these last like 8 or 9 years, it's been a completely different atmosphere. And if I'm man enough to own it, I can look back and go, some students perpetuated that, but I was also willing to allow them to perpetuate that. Does that make sense?
No, totally does. I'm in a weird situation. I was talking, it's like, we have a weird anomaly that's at my school. I have over 30 black belts at my gym.
That's a lot of fucking black belts.
It is. And not all of them are mine. Like, pandemic brought a lot of people from California out, and we've gotten some great black belts from other gyms out in California that have become part of our culture. But that's not normal. And I'm not going to say that I definitely, anyone that knows me knows I'm half stupid. I'm just as surprised of half the things that come out of my mouth that the people that I say it to we both look at each other like, oh shit, my bad. right?
Yeah, right. Preach, brother. Keep going.
Not a smart dude, but what I will tell you is, and I think this comes from my background with being around such great human beings on the military side. As I was talking, it's like as much as I've taught the military, I've got them fooled. They've taught me way more. You know, I was in the military too, but when you're around dudes that are the tip of the spear, so to speak, man, they make you look at things differently, right? And one of the things that I've really prided myself with at our gym is, yeah, I'm the dumbass that signed a lease. You know, I pay the rent, but I'm not a dictator. And nor I've got black belts from all walks of life, doctors, lawyers, you know, business owners, IT guys, you know, blue collar workers, white collar workers, but they hold me accountable. You know, they are very quick if something is not going right or something's not done right. Man, they're quick to be able to tap me off to the side and hold me accountable. And I think, you know, in what you were saying is it takes a big human being to be able to absorb that kind of information and be able to change. And not everyone can do that. So the fact that, you know, you have a business mentor that was able to be like, hey, man, that just lets me know that you have good people around you that want to see you be successful and aren't yes men. So yeah, I'm that way. And
there we go.
I think that's huge. And TJ will tell you, I don't run my gym like it's my way or the highway. I don't micromanage my black belts. I let them teach the way they want to teach. Everyone's got their own teaching style. They understand what they understand what our principles, what our core values are, and you know, I let them be them. You know, if there's a huge decision that has to be made, a couple of years ago, we had a black belt that I just, you know, we kind of fell out of likings with that individual before I made the major decision to have him not return back to our gym. I had a conversation with all my black belts just to make sure that I wasn't overthinking this or overdoing it. And it's nice to have people that hold you accountable. I think that people in our business, whether it's the gun world, whether it's the combatives world or the jiu-jitsu world, you have to have great people around you in order for you to be successful, because you're not going to make a ton of money. And I think you know this. I don't think either one of us do this to be millionaires. You're not like, we should have stayed in corporate America to do that. You know, but I love what I do. I'm rich in a whole bunch of different senses, maybe not financially, but I know that at 3 a.m, I got at least 40 dudes that I can call and they wouldn't ask any questions. They would be at my house. To me, I don't have one dude. When guys tell me I only got one guy I can count on, I'm like, that sucks. I got 40 and I know that I could call them all.
Yes, sir. All that separates some of them is distance. Fucking,
Yep.
can you imagine if we lived next door to each other? You'd be like 3 a.m. and I'd be like looking through the shades, like, yo, you guys again? I like where you're going with this. So you've definitely you've alluded to it enough, which tells me you're at least comfortable to address on the surface sort of the military piece of this. So I'm not going to ask a directed question. I'm just going to ask you to speak on that to whatever level that you're cool with or you feel is relevant. So give me a little bit of an understanding about your like military background, and then what I know or what I understand from TJ is that you coach some folks from some pretty you said spear tip sort of units. I imagine you're not teaching them like French or something. I imagine you're probably teaching them right.
No, you know, 7 years ago we have this conversation, and it's not even like it's such a weird world. I think with the the push of social media, Instagram, some of these other social platforms, this secrecy of like military stuff has gone away. But there was a time when my contract was literally, I can't talk about who I train. You know, I can refer to special operations units, you know, but you know, I think once the SEALs started coming out and doing their thing, guys were like, hold up, like, why are we being so secret? Like, we're not going to give away the keys to the kingdom. So yeah, I don't mind talking about it. I guess, you know, for a very long time, it was warriors in the shadows, right? You know, quiet professionals. And I still consider myself that way. You know, I feel like I have a lot of knowledge. I have a lot of training under my belt. And so sometimes when I see stuff on the civilian side being done, it's very hard for me to be like, but truth be told, man, whatever. That's it. Like if I'm concentrating on that stuff, then I'm not concentrating on me, my guys, or the product. So, you know, you do you. Eventually someone's going to walk in and be like, well, this is horse shit. This isn't real. And so, you know, I went into the military straight out of high school. Now I was that Perryville kid growing up that probably like almost any other military dude that I know, you know, was raised well, but was kind of an idiot. You know, my grades sucked. I played a lot of sports, but I did a lot of dumb shit. And so when it came time to make a decision, like, where am I going to go? My grades definitely weren't good enough to run that route into college, and nor was my work ethic. And so I signed up for the military. I mean, dude, I was the kid that was having other people do my homework for me. Like I just, you know, I knew that much about myself. You know, I went to a recruiter in between my junior and senior year and was like, why not? You know, he's like, hey, what do you want to do? Let's just put it this way. My ASVAB score pretty much told me what I was going to do. I sucked at it. So it's like cook or infantry. And I was like, shit, infantry. I'll send that. I'm not going to cook. I went to basic and AIT out at Fort Benning, and then headed off to Korea for a year. I spent a year in Korea.
Damn, you are old.
I am old as shit, dude.
Holy
I am
fuck.
old.
Not the actual Korean War, Kent.
Oh, I was just saying, my granddaddy went to that somebody. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but I am pretty old. I came back, ended up at Fort Campbell, Kentucky with 3rd of the 187th, went to Ranger School in 93 when there was 4 phases in Ranger School. Not that it was any harder or any different. There was a desert phase, which is kind of weird that we've gotten rid of desert phase since we've literally spent the last 20 plus years in the desert. But yeah, they got rid of desert phase, I think in 96, if I'm not mistaken. I got out of the military because I didn't want to stay at Fort Campbell. I wanted to go to Vicenza, Italy. I wanted to go to an airborne unit. At that time, I was under then President Clinton, who, you know, I wouldn't say he was like, I definitely don't like to get into politics. And back then I didn't know much about politics. I was a young idiot. But I knew that, like, you know, he wasn't as supportive of the military. And so I went to my recruiter and was like, hey man, I want to go to Vicenza, Italy. I got a Ranger tab. Like, you spent a lot of money on me. Like, if you don't give it to me, I'm going to get out. And they were like, bye. And I was like, shit. You know, I was telling you, like, God knows what he's doing. So, and I never left Fort Campbell. So it's a weird scenario. I wanted to leave so bad that God was like, nope, you're going to stay right here. And so I got out of the military, went to college, worked at a prison, bounced, you know, worked for corporate America. Yeah, worked at. Yeah, I would say this. When you work at a prison, you're in prison for your shift. So you call it whatever you want. Yeah. Some of the major, I was talking, it's like the those parts of my life were necessary in order for me to be where I am today. I wouldn't be who I am today if those things didn't transpire. I find myself to be pretty religious, and if, I was talking, I'm not here or there, but I always feel like a higher power always knows what's good for you, even when you don't. I feel like if I didn't have that disconnect from the military and go out and get to see other portions of it, I got to learn to do de-escalation a ton in the prison. You can't be a badass as a prison guard or even as a SORT member. Your job is literally to try to keep everyone calm in a prison setting. So de-escalation was huge. I worked corporate America, believe it or not. That's where I learned a lot of my customer service. Smile and grin and accept that, sometimes the customer is right, even when they're not right, if you want to make it right. And then I started going up to Campbell and training in the combatives room way back then. 5th Special Forces Group I called it the green room. It was a fight house, man. There was no combatives being done in there, man. There was just Fight Club. But that's where I was at the time.
It tracks.
2009, I opened my gym here in Spring Hill. And this, when you open up a business, man, you got two options: take out a loan or do it on your own. And I definitely didn't want to pay anybody. So I had to buckle down, and a buddy of mine named John Rankin, who's one of the OGs of the combatives world for the military. He had been running the 5th Group Fight House. I was like, hey, man, I kind of want to do this on top of my martial arts school. To be honest with you, I needed to do it to pay the bills because I'd walked away from my job and my wife was footing all that. And as a man, that's just not cool. So, he hired me in, and I've been with 5th Group ever since. I've gotten to train a whole bunch of different units outside of that. I've gotten to do some really cool stuff, dude. Like I always say this, I'm spoiled, and I forget how spoiled I am that I get to be around some of the coolest dudes in the world. I've gotten to learn from dudes in the unit. I've gotten to see some of our guys from group end up at the unit, right? You get to see what that kind of individual is made up of. And I always think it's not as fancy as you see on TV, man. They're just down to earth, really freaking great dudes that honestly, you wouldn't know that that's who they are until you're deep into a conversation.
Yep.
Just walk differently. They don't have to. And I think, I always tell guys, man, I've never had to grow up. I get to play Army as an old dude and get to hang around with. The crazy thing is, most of the guys I'm training now are old enough to be my kids, but I still beat the shit out of them. So they got to know. But yeah, I teach a lot of really cool stuff. Everything from fighting inside of rooms during CQB scenarios, handcuffing, low visual tactical stuff. When it comes to a lot of the mission set that my guys go into now is more in the civilian closed world as opposed to going in a full ODA. So things have and they ebb and flow over the years. Unfortunately, I've gotten to see some of my buddies not come back, but I've gotten to see a lot of my buddies come back, and their training makes them. I always say this: the guys that train combatives, to me, and then again, hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but I just think they're better. They're better Green Berets. I think guys that know how to fight and understand what violence looks like, they make better decisions. They're not just hey, I'm going to fight everything guy, or I'm just going to shoot everything guy. They're willing to step back and and take a deep breath before that decision's made. And usually that decision is 10 times better. And so obviously, like, yeah, I'm pretty open book with a lot of that. I talk a lot with TJ on it. And we were just talking today up at Campbell, we did tool fighting. So, in the mornings I teach jujitsu unless I have a course going on like every morning for an hour and a half. And then after that, we have courses that go through, whether it's a SOCP course or some form of combatives program course, a low visual course, or any other basic hand-to-hand. But a lot of those guys were trying to implement the understanding of concealed carry. Like, as cool as concealed carry is these days, I think a lot of people have a really false sense of what that means. At least from our world, I would say this: I come from a very different world than the average dude that's like, "Hey, I just carry a pistol every day." I'm like, I do, but not for the reasons that you do. I think mine is 100%.
Why do you carry a pistol every day?
Every other measure has failed.
Fair enough.
That's why I carry a gun. And a lot of guys, it's because it's their first go-to.
Yeah, I don't know what different worlds that you're referring to, but that is the world. Like, if the gun's your first tool, you're fucked. You're super duper turbo fucked. We got problems.
And you know this, and I know this, and that dude knows this, right, TJ? But how many guys have you come across that are like, I don't even know how to fight, I got a gun? I'm like,
oh, sure. So like,
it's the tactical equivalent of I just see red, man.
Yeah, you end up in a. Here's what I see a lot of. So home defense, concealed carry, whatever it might be. A person has an idea of what their boogeyman is going to be already. Like, you could tell they visualize this. And I don't necessarily mean race, gender, physical structure, but like, that's part of it too. Like, they can literally envision the dude that's going to victimize them, like 100%. But beyond that, I just figure like something goes bump in the night and it's 2 a.m. and it's going to be dark. And I'm like, so you just got to determine when that dude was going to come rape your wife, huh?
Yeah.
Like, he ain't going to show up at 2 p.m. while you're out fucking on your bike ride or something. Like, you've already got an idea, a preconceived notion in your head of whatever your extreme encounters are going to be like. And then you structure your whole system, which isn't a system. It's just a set of preconceived notions from fucking terrible YouTube videos, frankly. But like, here we go with the like, all right, so I need this gun and this holster and this and this and this and this. And I'm like, you got spray? What do I need spray for? Dogs and drunks and separation and distance? I don't know. Do you have spray? No. Okay. Have you ever grappled? Ever? Have you ever grappled anybody that wasn't also drunk at a family barbecue? Yes, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you never have, then I understand this viewpoint in your head of how you're going to be in Walmart and your boogeyman is going to start doing his boogeyman things and you're going to be 15 paces off of him and you're going to appendix draw your SIG 365 and you're going to smoke check him and you're going to be the hero. What if your boogeyman is the dude literally behind you in your ass hip pocket at the sheets?
Yeah.
Because now you ain't got that standoff for your sexy bullshit draw and all your other stuff, and now you're right up in that shit. Now you have to earn your way to your gun, maybe. And now the whole fucking world has changed.
And that's a big decision. I always tell guys that's such a huge decision. And I don't know many guys that have actually had to make that decision in real life, right? Outside of guys that are in the military, the law enforcement world, personal protection world, like all of that is kind of theory for most guys, right? It's like,
yeah, I definitely have a confirmation bias, given that a decent subset of our humans you and I are probably both predisposed to having had more exposure to people who have had to make those choices, right? So, but you're right. Like
black and white.
If you just took like did the Simpsons thing and just dropped a dome somewhere random, and then whatever humans were in that dome, how many of those humans have had to make a call like that? Like, I'll give you a percent, maybe 1% of the humans in your dome, maybe.
Sorry about that.
No, you good, man. It's but like anything else, right? It's all these other mindsets coming, like the prepper mindset, right? The guy that's got the basement foolish. I thought that might be me. Like the dude that's got all this stuff and he doesn't ever take any of it out and use any of it, or the dude who focuses overly heavy on cardiovascular fitness but cannot lift a bag of dog food, or the dude like right on down the list of people who just get sucked into whatever their preconceived notion is, and then they serve that notion. And when they come to us, they want what they want oftentimes is somebody to like just automatically agree with their biases. And when they instead get any sort of pragmatic, like follow-on questioning, just immediately either they disassociate or they dive in.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. So
no, I don't disagree with that.
What about so people, special warfare folks at all, all the branch versions of them, all the units, all the people. What do you think is like an overarching quality about those types of people that you wish was a quality just humanity wide, right? Like, what's the thing about them that makes them so special? Why are they special?
That's such a. I don't think I can give you like just a black and white, because I go with this. I think no matter what world you're in, and this, some guys live on the laurel of a certificate or a course, right? We kind of have the running joke. It's like, and this comes from some dudes that I obviously have a lot of love for, man, but they've been SF dudes for their whole career. And they're like, some guys rest too much on that tab that's on their shoulder that says special, and just because you have that tab on there just doesn't mean it's the end, it's the beginning. And I think it comes down to, I see two different mindsets in these units. The very A-type personality, like you're not a part of my group. We do our own thing. I don't need to learn anything new. All my guys are teaching everything. But to me, the outliers in those units are the guys that understand that is just part of the process, and that they have to continually to keep adding on to that to be the best soldier possible. But if you're asking me like what makes those guys different just to even get there, it's the drive. I mean, I think no matter what, a guy that's willing to take that extra step, whether it's going, to a Ranger battalion, whether it's going to a, SF, pararescue, CAG, whatever it may be, man, those guys are just built differently. I hear this all the time from people. This generation of kids suck. I'm like, well,
right.
Maybe the generation you deal with. I'm kind of spoiled, whether it comes to the 3-year-old or the 60-year-old that I train. They're all the outliers. You got 3-year-old kids in there that are savage. I got some 60. We got a guy named Troy at our gym that's 65. He is one of the nastiest rolls you'll ever roll with. He
will armbar you while you're on his back.
And he just, and then I guess for me, it's just like, I think there's in those units, there's still dudes that are separated even from those units based off their mindset. You know, I always say, like, the guys that come into my room, I probably get to see maybe a fourth of fifth group come in through that combatives room, realistically. You know, a lot of those guys are either too busy, you know, and there is, man. I mean, fifth group is probably one of the busiest units out there and has been since the beginning of the war. So a lot of those guys are really over inundated, but there are a lot of dudes that don't show up because, man, that room is going to chin check you. But the guys that show up on a continual basis, man, those are the outliers. You know, those guys end up being amazing team sergeants, amazing sergeant majors. Some of those guys end up going over, you know, across the fence, you know, over to the unit. It's very seldom that I catch a guy that's in a combatives room or in that's wanting to really learn more. That's a shitbag. Like, they're usually some of the best in the units.
That's kind of been my experience too, right? You know, and we've talked about this a little bit, but I feel like every group has their own type of personality, right? Like, there is a trope for every group, right? Fifth group guys and the 10th group guys are pretty similar. They're really laid back, chill, good dudes for the most part. First group, third group, little crazy. Seventh group, probably smuggling cocaine. But I don't know that I could tell you what system. Obviously, I don't have the experience that you do, but I can tell you that in my experience, I can tell you what separates an SF dude from a really great SF dude. Humility. And Ray, you kind of captured a little bit with your explanation. They recognize that they are good at what they do, but they do not take their accomplishments for granted and recognize that it took hard work to get there. And they're willing to continue putting in the hard work without any guarantee that they'll be successful. But it's not going to stop it from trying. Right?
I think I had a guy a long time ago that told me, he explained it the best to me, and I've always used this. Mm-hmm. Every man carries around their own toolkit, and it is up to them to continually add to their own toolkit. But there are a lot of dudes that are satisfied with the tools that are on their kit and think that those tools can fix everything. And the truth is, we know that you're always going to have different tools for different situations. And that's always fed with me. Anytime I teach a course, I'm always like, hey, like, the likelihood of you coming out and learning everything out of this course is like minimal. The truth is, the chance of you liking everything in this course is minimal. But everyone's going to grab something different from this course and add it to their own toolkit. What may be relevant to you may not be relevant to someone else, and what's not relevant to you may be relevant to someone else. And I think guys that have that mindset, that are willing to just go into a course, be open-minded, and figure out what they can put into their cool toolkit out of that course, man, I love those dudes. It's the guys that come in with the closed mindset of like, well, I went to a course 4 years ago and this guy taught it this way, and that's the only way to do it. I just don't think that's the right answer.
I'll give you both. I'll give you a perspective from the outside. You both have experience with special warfare unit folks, and you both have military experience that I don't have. So from the outside looking in, a thing that I see in most of you that I end up respecting, and I have, again, like a deeper pool of those guys to pull from than average, just because of the industry I'm in or whatever. Most dudes like me don't know but one or two of y'all. Me knowing a dozen or two is like a lot, comparatively, right? And I've got one in my family, and I'll speak on him for a moment, because the thing for me that I see is absolute situational composure. Not crazy highs, not crazy lows, but 100% momentary presence. Like if he's being a dad, he's being a dad. If he's being a husband, he's being a husband. If he's being a professional, like, just wherever he is completely. And then like a deeper sense of duty to like a situation that you should, like, to use a jiu-jitsu phrase, like, it would be all right to tap. Like, this would be a moment where it'd be all right to tap. And that motherfucker not only does not tap, but absolutely persists in a way that is just incredible to me. I watched a relative of mine eulogize his 7-year-old daughter. He was in fifth group for a while, and then did some other specially cool guy things. I watched him eulogize his 7-year-old daughter, and he did it as an apology to the husband who missed out on her.
Yeah,
square fucking straight face, no breaking, dead fucking eye contact with his wife the entire time, pausing to like wait for her to pick her chin back up, right? Like right there, 100% locked in. Did his job as beautifully as any man in that moment could do it, and walked out of there like, I don't know, me teaching a gun class. Like, it was just a thing. Now, clearly he's not Jesus. Clearly he's not unaffected. Clearly he's not emotionally stunted and doesn't give a shit. But the poise in that moment to like fold his hands on a podium and just be like, I don't know who you are, but he's literally started, like, I swear to God, he went, I don't know who you are, but I need to talk to you for a minute. And whoever you are, this is what you missed out on. That kind of shit, whatever makes that man, we need a bottle, and instead of like energy drinks and Red Bulls and cocaine, we need to put that shit on the market, because our society could use a ton of that, right? And from the outside looking in, that's the thing I respect about so many of you. Like, I watch you in hard times, and I pride myself on being real good at handling hard times. I really am. But you can see that I'm going through it. Like, I don't just straight away shoulder it. Like, you watch me wear that. Not in this case.
No, I think ownership is a huge thing.
Thank you.
I think that's one thing I really look at with these guys is ownership's always big on their priority list. Whether it's good or bad, they're going to own it, and they're going to fix it, or they're going to capitalize on it. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I have nothing but respect for my buddies. Like, TJ knows one of my buddies. He married Angelina, right? Vic Fagiano. Probably, dude, when I tell you, if you didn't know he was that guy,
you'd never know.
You wouldn't know. You'd never know.
Yeah.
He's just, but let me tell you something. He's that guy. It's kind of scary. He's that guy. Just an amazing human being. The first time I ever met that dude, the funny story with him was, he was introduced to me by one of my guys at fifth group that had trained with me for a long time. They were on the same team. They just come back off of a deployment, and it was a pretty rough deployment. Not mine to talk about, but the stories that they tell, I'm like, Jesus, bro, like, that's impressive. But he's like, hey, and this guy never said anything good about anybody I ever met. And his first words to me was like, hey, this is a solid dude, Ray. This is a solid dude. He did MMA before he came in, and within literally, and there's very few of these dudes, but within like a week, man, I just knew that this dude was solid all the way around. And Angelina's kind of like my daughter. So I was like, hold up, this needs to happen. But he's not just one. There's so many of those dudes that I'm surrounded around. And if I'm around those guys, I know that there's other dudes surrounded by those guys. That's why I was there. It's like, I have faith in at least America. I have faith in the dudes that I know that are strapping up, that are considered the tip of the spear, man. They're built different. Yeah, we may have a whole bunch of 25-year-olds running around with skinny jeans and, and being real feminine, but there's also another set of 25-year-old dudes running around that are savages.
It's funny. So you've brought this up now. If you've talked about like generations and your kids these days, right? Like that tendency that we all have the older we get. And I'm sort of starting to get the sense that we all said that. Like we all were, like every generation was like, all these fucking kids. And before us was them, and they were saying that about all these fucking kids. Like I really feel like that's just kind of innate in our human condition. I don't think we're any
for sure. For sure. I do think that, and I'll go this because I'm going to show my age a little bit here. I grew up in a world where there was, no computer in the house. There were no cell phones. I think my first 3 or 4 years in the Army, man, there were still 4 payphones in our barracks, and that's how you conversed. There was less things to draw you away from certain things, but I do think that there is a group in this area that has gotten really lazy and very yeah. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say here. Mm-hmm. But then there's a much better group that's out there that are just they're different. They're just different. Like, I don't know, man. My generation, we call them the old crabby knuckle draggers. I was telling you, I've seen 3 different phases. I've been there long enough to see 3 different phases of Green Berets. The knuckle draggers, like those first dudes that were in the war in 2001, man, they were built different. An E8 back then looked like he had been run through the ringer. Looked 80 years old, hard, weathered skin. Now you got master sergeants that look like they're 26. They're just built different. But I had those guys, and then we kind of got I call like the intellect dudes, the guys that came in that super smart, like really good problem solvers, maybe not as violent. And I wouldn't say all around, but just in general. But today's dudes, they're the hybrids. They're like knuckle draggers, but so intelligent, man. They're just a different animal. There's just times where I look, I'm like, damn, dude, like, I wish I was 21 again in a lot of ways. But in that sense, I always get to say, the cool thing is I get to teach those guys how to be savages. And so I think that's pretty cool too.
It's pretty, it's an interesting role that you get to play in people's lives. Like you're not just coaching them. I don't mean to offend anybody, but like, you're not just coaching them soccer or some shit, right? Like, and that guy means like, I can tell you how many kids in team sports or whatever, like how many good men have made a difference in lives of young people or younger people just by being a good coach in any facet. Like there's some guy, TJ, we need to make it a fucking point to go find like a killer bowling coach or somebody. Like, you know what I mean? Like some shit that we...
I know a guy. I'll give him a call.
Oh, perfect. Like some shit that we would place no value in, but yet I'm certain he's helped young men and shit like that before.
Can we at least do like a fly fishing coach? Like,
I can introduce you to it. Yeah, well, I got a couple fly fishing coaches that I can do. But you get my point, right? Like, there's people that coach, and then there's people that coach something so intimate as shooting or grappling or a combative system, or like I would say football gets close to this, wrestling gets close to this.
Listen, my wrestling coach was a savage.
Yeah.
I had the same wrestling coach from the age of 5 until I left high school.
That's sick.
And Ramstetter, and like he's fully retired now, and but that dude had such an impact on so many people's lives in our hometown. Like I grew up in a small town in Colorado, man, where it was a farming community town. The San Luis Valley, there's nothing there. It's a 4-hour drive to get to a Target. Growing up, man, that dude he helped so many people. I don't know anyone that whether you loved Ram or hated Ram, that as you got older, you couldn't respect who he was and how honest he was with you. And to this day, I tell guys, like, if it wasn't for Ram, I probably would have never made it through Ranger school. I was what they called a strong Ranger. I was dumb as shit, but man, I was strong and I didn't know how to quit. And that came from him, like countless wrestling practice of him just not letting us quit, holding us accountable. And I'm thankful that there are so many, and I go with jiu-jitsu because that's my world, but I'm so thankful that there's so many jiu-jitsu schools that are investing time in these younger kids. The new generation of kids coming into jiu-jitsu right now is scary. They're just, you've got 10 and 11-year-olds, man, that'll smoke some adults on the mats. If you were to go technique for technique with those kids, they would smoke you. Like there are times where I go to the Master Worlds, that 35 and up group. Yeah, we're old, we're ancient, we just dry hump a lot and hold on. This younger generation, like the kid, it's kind of a true statement.
That's why I'm laughing, Ray. That's
like I would say this: jiu-jitsu guys over 40, but they're not going to do anything fancy on you, but they're going to squeeze you to death, and you're going to wish that they would do something fancy.
Old man.
Now you got my technique, baby. You want to see somebody hug a motherfucker? I gotta hug
this younger generation. You watch them, and it is just scary. And again, how are they getting that way? They've got amazing mentors. And I think another thing that I really throw in there is dads that are sharing the mats with their kids. Dude, that is so freaking crazy. I get to share the mats with my son when he wants to get on the mats, but there is nothing more rewarding than just getting to roll with him. Right. And just, like it's a time that I feel like it's not like any other. It's not like going out and fishing. I think fishing's amazing. It's not even like going out and shooting with your son. When you get to slap hands and then your son gets to be like, oh, hold up. Like, I can't whoop my dad's ass. Like my dad's a savage. There's a different build between that. I think it's necessary. I always tell dads that bring their kids in to train at my gym, you need to train. Your kid's out here doing hard shit. Why aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And when they do it.
I wish. My wife is helping coach the kids now at our place. My son's there constantly. And I'm on the range doing for other people what you are doing for that. You know what I mean? Like I wish I had more of that time. This business is eventually going to build to the place where like these other dudes are going to get to take over, and that's where you're going to find me.
Good for you.
Because I cannot even tell you. Like him and I go out on the trampoline and just go round for round for round for round, because like I appreciate what you're saying. But he comes out, literally I come off the range every fucking night at about the time that I rolled into you guys. It's about the time they're getting home from jiu-jitsu. And he's on fire. He's just, Dad. I'm like, yeah, what's up? 2 nights ago, he got striped up again. Dad, I got striped. I'm like, oh shit. How'd that go? What's going on? He's like, Dad, I got more stripes than Mom does now. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, like he's context. He's not 6 yet, right? He's between 5 and 6. So for context, it's not like It's
But
just
what
so
he's learning, oh man, what he's learning, dude, is like to me, there's no amount of money you can put on that at that age. Problem solving at that intense of a, I was like, man, as an adult, if I came up and just started grabbing you and ragdolling you, you would shut down if you didn't know how to fight.
Yep.
You do that with 3, 4, 5, 6 year olds, man, they arise to the occasion so quick. Like they don't know what fear looks like at that age. Like they might get scared for a second, but if you don't feed into it, man, they're good. It's just, to me, it's fun to watch them.
I'm gonna quibble or differ with you slightly. There is an amount of money you can put on it, and the amount of money you can put on it is whatever you have to do as a man to provide for them to the point where they can have these fucking experiences.
You know what? I've never heard it like that, and I kind of like that.
So, like, I can't be where I want to be with him all the time right now, but I am absolutely providing, and the thing I'm doing has value as well, right? It's not.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm not going to corporate America, fucking like making them another sale or whatever. So that I'm not doing something completely soulless all the time so that he can have a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing him what it looks like for a man to have soul and put that level of effort in. And
he's getting to see that from his mother too, which is
100%. Yep.
Tell me, like, I look at, obviously, like, we're all men here that our wives are savages, obviously, and it's like that's not real in a lot of families, right? And I got like a couple of next door neighbors over here, man, that I'm pretty positive have never even had someone yell at them, right? But it's like to have your kids watch your wife out there being a savage. One, like I look at TJ's wife, right? I mean, his kids get to see his wife be an instructor. She's out there leading. I think, man, like to just sit back and be like, yeah, well, my mom's kind of a fucking badass, and to know that their dad does stuff like that. Not every kid gets that.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of kids out there right now in this world, man, that they got mom and dad that are so afraid of shadows that those kids are afraid of shadows.
They are fucked.
Yes.
They screwed.
So, those end up being the kids that are hiding behind masks, looting everything. That's just my 2 cents, and then we'll back out of that. But
no, don't back out of it. Like, okay, so they're either behind masks looting, or they grow into an abusive relationship where they've never learned to stand up and square up to somebody.
Yeah.
Or they end up getting taken advantage of professionally, or they, like, you can go straight to they become a complete shitbag.
Yeah.
Or you can look at like the pattern of somebody's life and be like, well, no, wait a minute. What about his upbringing or what about her upbringing would make you think that it would have went any different than this? Of course it went this way. Like, why would it go anywhere else?
I'll go ahead and I'll say the quiet part out loud. If parents had a better relationship with their kids and maybe even whip that ass a little once in a while, to show them what right looks like, Columbine wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the like there's the, you can see this one of two ways, right? Like, my son's daddy runs a gun murder school. Like, you can spin that in the newspapers if you'd like to. Or you can see, hey, my 5.5-year-old has better reasoning skills than your 15.5-year-old does because he's allowed to sort through some shit on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you tell me who's who, right? I don't know. My son, like, if you interacted with him for a while, you'd, like, his physical stature gives him away for sure. He doesn't look like an older man or whatever. But if you had like a conversation with him, you'd be like, that kid's like 7 or 8. And every dad wants to say that or whatever.
No, I'll vouch for that one. No, I'll vouch for that one.
He gets it all from his mama because homeboy over here.
But they do carry themselves different. Listen, you have no choice but to carry yourself different. I say this all the, like, TJ will tell you, I teach all my kids classes. I don't have to. truth be told. But man, to me, that's the future. And I want to make sure that I'm fully involved in that, right? Like, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. But I always tell the kids, like, don't get it twisted, man. You are doing something that most adults are afraid of doing. And that is standing in front of another human being and agreeing to be violent with each other. Like, there's a lot of human beings that would never do that. And as you got 4-year-olds that are standing across from each other, that are shaking hands. And, you know, the counterpart I've heard from some people are like, you're teaching them to be violent. No, I'm teaching them what violence looks like and how to control violence. And when you do that, those kids will never have violence around their life. They'll never approach violence. It's like the trivial, like, how many guys have you ever had come up like, oh, so you're so you teach guns, huh? You teach shooting, so you probably could kill dudes. I'm like, that's weird. Why would you ask that? It's like my world. So you think you could beat me up? No, I didn't ever think I could do anything like that. But it's like, I told the kids this the other day. I was like, you know what the superpower is for dudes that train? Is that I can walk into a room and know, not that I'm the toughest dude in the room. I don't know that. I don't know everyone. But I know I have enough skill set if something was to go down in this room that I might have a fighting chance. That's a superpower. Mm-hmm. There's no maybe. There's no in theory. There is, I train enough to know what violence looks like, so I probably wouldn't even be involved in it. The second that I saw it going down, I would disengage from it.
It's amazing how much professional experience makes people pacifists.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Armed society is polite society. I want to jump in here for a second. I want to jump in here for a second because Ray, you're on a topic that's very near and dear to me, and it actually answers a couple of the other questions that we posed tonight. And it was, what are qualities you should look for in a martial arts school, jiu-jitsu, whatever you want to call it, right? Taekwondo, underwater basket weaving, I don't really care, right? I always tell people treat it like a church. Right. We can all agree that we're there for similar purposes, but just because you go to a church and just because you're a Baptist and the church is a Baptist, that you're going to fit in there and it's going to be, maybe that preacher ain't going to be preaching the way that you think is appropriate. So what I tell people is treat it like a church, but more importantly, look at how they treat your kids. When I first started with Ray, this was probably within this was during our 30-day trial period, as a matter of fact. I'd come to a couple of classes, ended up showing up at an open mat on a Saturday, and it was me and Wyatt. And I'm rolling with whoever my partner was at the time, and Wyatt was rolling with a couple other kids. He got caught in a pretty good choke. And it was the first time Wyatt had ever he was 11 years old. First time he'd ever felt anything like that. Been exposed to anything like that, completely loses his shit, crying up a storm, right? Just freaking out, stage 10 meltdown. Yep. And I stopped rolling with my partner, and I was like, and I saw Ray going over there, and he's like, "You okay?" Well, not Ray, but my partner. He's like, "You okay?" Because he felt me stop. And I was like, "Yeah, just hold on, I want to watch this." Here's Ray, doesn't know me and Wyatt from Jack Adam. We are newbies at best. Right? Hell, we're demo newbies, right? That's Ray goes over there, grabs Wyatt, pulls him aside, and I sit here and watch this exchange between this man who I'd barely met, and he calms Wyatt down, and then pulls him aside and has Wyatt roll with him just to help get him back to being comfortable. It was at that moment, that exact moment, when I knew I didn't have to finish the 30 days. And I've been with Ray for the last 5 years, right? So,
well, it's been a theme. So you're now the third jiu-jitsu guy aside of TJ. I don't consider myself to be one. I'm just like here to grapple when I get a minute. But like Jedlinski and Cecil, who runs his own school, we'll have to introduce you guys at some point. That'd be pretty shit.
I think Cecil knows you, Ray. I think he knows you and Rachel. I think he knows Rachel for sure. But yeah, okay. We'll talk about that later.
Third person on the podcast in a jiu-jitsu professional sort of sense that has said something along the lines of like, how is the kids program and how involved are the ownership in the kids program? Like, that'll show you an awful lot, right? Jedi straight up told us when TJ was looking at like finding a jiu-jitsu school, because I remember TJ like getting the itch and wanting to get into it, and you know, we had one of our gun instructor buddies on this show, in fact, and said like, hey, how we did probably a 20-minute segment on like how to pick a jiu-jitsu school, and you just redid that segment and you didn't watch that one or listen to it, and you don't know that, dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. It's how do they treat your kids? In my world, it's, you know, how do I treat your wife? How do I treat your daughter? How is, like, there's a whole nother. It'd be easy to be like the vested up kick-ass fucking shooter, you know, Yosemite Sam dickhead guy. But like, how do I treat your 11-year-old daughter? I don't know. Like, I don't need you to coddle my kid and like, oh, hey, sweetie. Oh, hi. Let's go shit. Oh, this is going to be so fun. Like, I don't fucking, like, ma'am, how are you tonight? What are we working on? Let's go. Come on. Get up here.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you can show her some level of respect. I have a guy at our club who, he's actually a past president of our club, and I definitely read from him that he wasn't vibing with me. Like, I don't think he liked me very much. And then I got to hang out with his granddaughter for like a big chunk of time, like a lot. And he literally like came over to me, and he's just sort of a very short, little funny old fella, you know, 4'9", 125 pounds of 1911 and fucking testosterone and suspenders, right? And he's a very like unassuming old fella, kind of almost cartoonish. He comes over to me and he goes, you know, you're not as retarded as I thought you were. I said, thanks, Bob. I'll take that. From you, I will go ahead and I'll take that. And then he smiles and he looks over at Sophie and he goes, and your wife is lovely. I'm like, yeah, yes, I'm clearly aware of what foot we should lead forward with. Like, we know who we are, right? But it's funny how that immediately makes you trust another person, but also like, and there's a difference between disciplining somebody's kid or getting on them or holding them accountable or whatever like that. Like, a good parent should want that. But if you're a piece of shit to my kid, you're entirely dead to me. There's nothing you can do to redeem yourself in my eyes. I have no business for you. I think, like, I understand some people don't jive with or love kids, or like, I don't need you to be like Blue's Clues or nothing, but you got to show my child some respect.
No, I think, you know, I always tell our parents, I'm never going to abuse your kid. I'm never going to talk down to your kid, but I am going to push your kid. And there may be some times where they cry, but we're going to be just fine. I'm not like, we're doing combatives. I can't teach your kid violence without pushing them past it. Right. But you know, going back to like, I've always thought this in my head, like, what makes a good martial artist? And for me, it's not all the accolades you have. It's not all the certificates that you hold. Yeah, those kind of have some relevance, I think. But I tell our guys all the time, man, I'm not here to build world champions. If we get a couple, cool. Truth is, man, I like watching dudes change. I've seen so many dudes come through our gym. You know, I have a black belt named Lauren. He was in the Battle of Fallujah. You know, and you'll hear guys say this all the time. Jiu-jitsu saved my life. That is no clearer of a story than my friend Lauren. And he's become one of my great friends. And listen, he's like, and he wouldn't care if I said this. So, I mean, you know, like, he still battles those demons. They're never gone. But without jiu-jitsu, without that camaraderie, without those friendships, I don't think we would have Lauren around, you know, and he's such an amazing human being and always has been.
He's a great guy.
Just, you know, like, funny. I mean, he's got definitely a Marine's sense of humor. So you got to have some thick skin on that. But man, he literally said the week that he found our school and went in, he was thinking about taking his life.
Yep.
And so I always look at this. It's like, I don't like guys, period, no matter what they are, whether it's like you're a 4th degree black belt, 3rd degree black belt, Navy SEAL, Green Beret, whatever, that is your identity. I think,
fair enough. Yep.
I think that you make the black belt. You decide what people think about that black belt. You decide what people think about that Green Beret. It is up to you to leave people with a good impression of what that is. And just like with anything else, there's a lot of black belts in our community that don't do the right thing, that are not great human beings, right? That demand respect instead of commanding respect, right? They sit up on that high horse and they want you to bow to them. And man, I don't do well with people like that. I like the black belt that literally I don't have to tell him to go grab the new guy and be his partner. He just does it. My purple belts, brown belts, like if there's new guys in class, they will sacrifice their training time to go make sure that individual has a great experience in the gym. And that is because of the culture of our gym. And we're not an anomaly when it comes to that. There are so many amazing gyms around this country that do exactly what we do. But there are other gyms, man, that are not like that. And I think in the gun world, I see that also. Bear Solutions, Drew Estelle is a good friend of mine. I love that dude to death. He's just salt of the earth, man. Like one of the, he's not, I would say this, man, he's not a gun instructor. He's a gun coach. Like I've seen him give so much back to our local community. Between the police department and other things that I'm just, I like to surround myself around dudes that are amazing. And I think that's who's at our gym. TJ's one of those dudes, TJ's gone through some of my courses. We've talked about him coming in and helping instruct on some of these courses. So, I am very thankful, very happy, very fortunate to have who I have around me. I couldn't imagine being at another city than I am right now. I always tell people, it's like, I don't want to make new friends. I have lots of really, really, really good friends. But if I do have to make new friends, they got to be people like me. They got to be people with that mindset of wanting to be great human beings and to build a better world for our kids. That's all I want.
Well, goddamn, I don't think I could think of a better way to end it than that. That was, man, are you media trained? You must be media trained. What sort of corporate America did you do? You're pretty good at talk tracking. You meet me a couple times. Yeah, you did.
No.
Here, I'll give you one. I use this all the time. Ready? And you know this. Yeah, that's some corporate America shit right there, homie. You don't just get that anywhere. You get that selling soap or something.
Oh no! You know what's crazy is I was a logistics coordinator. I literally just sat and watched trucks. Logistics. Yeah. No, dude, I really appreciate TJ. Like, I knew you had your podcast, Bubba. I've never asked. I never asked to come on a podcast ever. That's just not who I am. And I knew he had it, and and he doesn't know this because he just thinks I'm Ray. But I was very honored that he asked me to come on the podcast, and I thank you. Obviously I don't do a lot of podcasting, and so
Well, if you want to, you do now, because what happens next is we start telling a couple other people like, hey, you should have this guy on here. So if that's a thing that you want, that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not, it doesn't have to. And if it is on some other time frame, that's cool too. But
no, dude,
like,
I enjoyed it.
Like an Oprah book tour, but I'm by no means the only squared away firearms instructor. You're by no means the only squared away owner of a gym. And this is by no means the only squared away format where you can come have such an honest conversation. There are other places. So
this is really cool. I appreciate
it. Isn't it fucking cool? It's so fun.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
It's really
so Ray, obviously, brother, over these last 5 years, you're more than just my coach. You're my friend. I think very highly of you and Rachel and the whole family. We consider you family. And it's an honor for me to actually have you on the podcast, brother. It truly is. For the listeners at home, what the genesis of this conversation was after I'd completed, I think, 3 classes with you from the Combatives curriculum. I know you've got another one coming up, which I'll be at. But I've done an edged weapons class, a get to the gun class, and like a straight up like de-escalation, like before you get to the weaponry and the hard stuff. And I'll be honest with you, Ray, you are correct. I've trained combatives with a lot of, I will say a lot, but several other instructors in the industry. And you're the only one that I've come across that actually focuses as heavily as you do on de-escalation. I see a lot of similarities in other content, but what I don't hear about is people learning how to talk and learning how to, again, buy them. And best quote I've ever picked up, and I'm still using it to this day: de-escalation is time management.
Yes, it is.
Right. So I ended up writing a review, as we often do, and we've done AARs for courses that we've gone through here with the instructors. And I wrote this review for Ray. I gave it to him, and he was very appreciative. And he asked if I would do a video for him or a couple of videos kind of showcasing, or at least talking about the courses and whatnot. I was like, dude, brother, I'll do you one better. How about you come on our podcast and we'll do it together?
Can I add a follow-on idea?
Yeah, shoot.
Let's do like we did for a couple gun classes and grab somebody else who's been through the curriculum without Ray present.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll talk you guys through an AAR on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of.
Actually, Ray, I already got somebody in mind. A couple of guys actually that usually show up with you.
That's fair.
Because that's always a good, like, you're never going to ask a dude, like, hey, will you come review this guy's class? And he says yes. And then he comes on and is like, this motherfucker, and then like tells you all the shit that's wrong for the next like 40 minutes. Like, so there's definitely some pre-acknowledged bias in it. But it's a different tone. Like if you're not here, the guy says something to the effect of, I was afraid of XYZ, but I was really pleased with the fact that actually ABC occurred.
Yeah.
Right. But my man won't say that with you chilling with your tattoos and all your cool shit, like, motherfucker. Like he won't, you know what I mean? Like he won't verbalize that in the same light or the same tone. So we've used this format where like the dudes, Apache Solutions stole our podcast like a couple of years ago, and they reviewed me and like without us there, right? They reviewed us without us there. That was sick. Like they did a whole fake thing where it was like, oh no, the airwaves are shut down and the Indians took over because Apache. But like that was pretty chill. But we've done it even just more simple than that. Like, hey, come review this guy's class with me, or come review a class we went to together. So we should do that.
We've actually had listeners, at least one listener, show up to our gym and do an open mat with me.
Who was that?
Bilby.
No, the Bilbies.
Yeah,
them sons of bitches show up on range. I have no idea which one it is.
Yeah, it was just Matt, if I remember correctly. But yeah,
well, it could have been Matt or Orion. The only way I know them apart is their gun and their holster.
Yeah.
Them dudes changed gear. I have no idea. I'm done. I'm like,
just get him a shirt, thing 1, thing 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff, man. All right, Ray. So we are coming to that part. Of course, we will extend you as many times as you want to come on the podcast, brother, and just hang out with us. You are always welcome.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely want to
Thank you.
get you back so we can get more into the combative side of it. There's a lot for us to unpack there that I think our audience would benefit from. But
I think
in
so.
closing, Ray, we'll turn it over to you. What do you got to say in closing?
That's you threw something at me that I wasn't ready for. I'm gonna say this. What's the definition of a man? What's your definition of a man? And what are you willing to do to make that definition reality? People talk about it, but very people are willing to do it. Come outside your comfort zone, man. If you're a shooter and you've never done any type of combatives, go and grab a combatives course. If you're a dude that only knows how to fight and you've never grabbed a pistol, you should go to a gun course. And if you're a dude that's done both of those and you haven't combined those together, you need to find someone that knows how to combine those two systems together.
I love it. I love it, man. Wise words. Folks, scrolling around down the bottom, check out the website, www.tbjja.com. Follow the gym on Instagram at tbjja_SpringHillTN on Instagram. And come on by and check us out, man. We'd love to have you guys. We love it when visitors come in. We love fresh meat for the grinder. No, in all seriousness, it's a great atmosphere. It's a place that you could fight and choke out your best friends, squash things with your worst enemy, or just hang out and have a good time with great people. So it's awesome. But Kent, over to you, buddy. What you got coming up?
Yeah. So guys, do me a favor, right? Those of you that are my students that are here local to me may never go to Tennessee or whatever, so you think, but that's all cool. Go find my man and give him a like and a follow on the Instagrams or what. Like, give a little social media currency. No, seriously. Like, unfortunately, currency comes from somehow beating the algorithm. Thank God Apple gives us the opportunity to beat the algorithm with this. This will go dog shit on YouTube and gangbusters on Apple, as it turns out. Who'd have thought? They're like, there is some freedom out there. Like, you can find a signal if you push hard enough. So what I ask of you guys is help my man increase his signal a little bit. Like, so go hit up the socials, go interact, go follow, go do all that kind of stuff. Whatever that content is bound to be at least as good as this conversation has been. So like, go do that. Right. And then again, like, so we're not in Tennessee. Cool. So there's a great 3G gym right here that our family's involved in. Like, go get in that shit. I've been after you guys to get on the mats. I've been after you guys to get in med classes. I've been after you guys to fucking get your personal finance game up. And I'm not your like, guru guy Jesus, dude. I'm just telling you, like, there's something soft in your shit and you should harden that a little bit. So go harden that piece. And what I would tell you above all else is just thank you so much, Ray, you're honored to be here. We're honored to have you. Meanwhile, we've been at this for over 2 hours now. You don't
feel like it.
Right, but my point, like, you've invested a good chunk of time in this audience, and at least for that, very much, I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Pleasure to meet you, man.
100%. As for me, you guys know where to find me. GreenMountainDefense.com/training. Get on the range. We got rifle, pistol, and medical all coming up within the next 45 days, and they're all almost half full, so that's pretty cool. If you're not going to take the cool guy hard skills classes, come take the med classes. We all need more medical training, so come out and do that. Dan Hatter is teaching his first solo primary instructor course where I don't have to teach shit. I just get to sit there and heckle him from the back of the room. So come take a med class from us. Private lesson packages are filling up. We've got 5 dudes spinning constantly teaching private lessons. So if you want on the calendar, come get it. If you want to host us, you know where to find us. And if you don't find us, dig back through this podcast for the last 150 XX of our competitors. or whatever the fuck that means, and go find them and get better, please. Love you all so much. TJ, you're going to say some things and read some things and not have a soul and have red hair and do all that shit. So you should probably
have souls. I just wasn't born with them. I've collected them over the years of my career. Okay. So folks, with that is all the time we have for this week. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Once again, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit us up on your various podcast players, Apple, Spreaker, Stitcher, the one that Joe Rogan's on, Spotify. Yeah, that one. Go check us out there.
You hate Joe Rogan and you scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll.
Yeah, you gotta go to one of the last pages. Go to one of the last pages. It's one of those. But thank you all very much, especially to our consistent listeners and fans. Thank you guys. Thank you, Guy, specifically, who watches all of our episodes. But in all seriousness, greenmountaindefense.com/affiliate links. You're going to buy gun stuff anyway. You might as well buy it from our affiliate links. Costs you nothing extra, and it helps support the channel and what we do here. So that is it for this week. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend. Until we see you again, God bless you. Take care of each other. Get out and shoot.
And train and roll and all that other shit.